This video is brought to you by Harold Sack, who gave me a massive 1 year's worth of subscriptions on Patreon. Tana partnered with Tevesh Szat versus Ixhel, Talrand, and partners Arden and Chrome. 3-lander with some ramp is slow, but yeah, it's not so bad that we have to ship it back, so we'll try it. Alright, and we are the first in the turn order, so our slightly slower start should be alright. A Jeska's Will to start off with. No turn 1 plays by any of our opponents. Ideally we would get into a 2-mana piece of ramp here, but yeah, piece of ramp for turn 4 is okay, so we've got our next few turns in line here. Fighter class from the partner player, being piloted by patron of the channel Terax. Mindstone for Talrand, so we should expect the commander next turn maybe. Plague Mere for Ixhel. So I was debating whether or not to go for Tana on turn 4, but I don't think we're going to be able to get her through yet. Anyway, our turn 3 remains either a Cultivate or a Kodama's Reach. A SRAM here, followed by land cycling of Lorien Revealed. So Talrand managing to get into an island there. SRAM obviously going to cantrip on either artifacts, specifically equipment or auras. Most likely equipment. Okay, the mono blue player passing straight through the turn, so wants to play Talrand with some counter magic backup, you would assume. Suggests that there's no free counter magic in hand at the moment. And Ixhel, thanks to the mana dork previously, coming into play on turn 3. And that is a flyer against our Tevesh Szat, but we could distract away from taking toxic damage maybe. Okay, another land for us. So we could try and go for the Tevesh Szat here. Are we going to get through the blue mana is the question. I think it's safer to just try and ramp. Priority is being held up by the Talrand and allows us into a couple of duels. We'll shock down the Overgrown Tomb, play a basic and go for Kodama's Reach. So even though we had a bit of a slow start, we're accelerating ahead on mana quite nicely now. So I think next turn maybe we'll go for Mirkwood Bats and the Tevesh Szat. As ever, it depends on what our opponents do really. Prophetic Flame Speaker. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, exile the top card of your library and you can play it this turn. It does have double strike and is likely to be equipped up at some point so that it's more difficult to block. And we take 2 from SRAM. Then during the end step we see what the 4 mana has been held up for. It is a Blue Sun Zenith, so just drawing 1 card there. I assume that he's eager to get into lands then. Did manage to get into a land if he was struggling previously. There is a Mnemonic Wall, so return an instant or sorcery to hand, and of course they get back the only one available, Lorien Revealed. And now we're being hit by the poison creatures, following it up with a Death Touch Toxic 1, Bilia Skullwelder, and a Felwar Stone. Not making a land seemingly by the end of turn 4, so Ixhel triggers for the first time. And has a look at the top card of our library, so we'll have to see if that's of any relevance to him as the game progresses. Okay, quite like Liliana, Dreadhorde General here. What else can we do though? We'll only have 3 mana available after that, and this will be on 2 loyalty, so they can keep hold of the commander here, so maybe it's best just hoping for a board wipe for now. Yeah, I think we can play the basic our opponents know about, and let's attempt to get down the Tevesh Szat. And then if we go for Jeska's Will, we can point that over here and that'll be 6 mana. But we can only play the cards this turn, so probably best holding off on that. Let's go for the Mirkwood Bats first before we make any tokens. Then +2 on Tevesh Szat. Makes 2/0/1 Thralls and triggers the Mirkwood Bats twice, each opponent losing 1 life. And we'll have to be careful of wiping out our tokens with the bats in play. It's noteworthy that at the moment we can block the Double Striker quite effectively, along with the Ixhel as well. Inventor's Fair is in play for the partner player over here, along with some fast mana in Mana Crypt. A Sword of Sinew and Steel, pro-black of course. So that is going to be double strike on this, I imagine. Could get rid of the Tevesh Szat, but they're not going to be gaining any card advantage at least. Alright, leveled up this. Equips cost 2 less to activate. So this can be thrown around for free effectively. And it is now a 3/5 pro-black and red. Double strike trample. Alright, ignoring us, going in at Ixhel instead. Surprised at that. Oh, of course, this is the one that can blow up planeswalkers, isn't it? Yeah, so they just straight up target the Tevesh Szat. So doing the damage over here With the first strike of damage, they can blow up an artifact and a planeswalker, so going after the Tevesh Szat. Went after the Plague Mere as well. And then there'll be another strike. So the Liliana Dreadhorde General is looking better and better. Can we get it through the blue player is the question. Should be targeting the Mind Stone here, yes, and he is. So that takes us further away from Talrand. Does make it hopefully more likely that we manage to land this thing though. And that means that we'll be able to go land Lily and Tana next turn maybe? Maybe we'll actually be able to get Tana through. Mystic Sanctuary with nothing in the bin. So Talrand the Sky Summoner coming in with just 1 mana held up. Could be a means of protection on that though. Swan Song or something like that. Offer you can't refuse. Alright, we see another creature from Viridian Corruptor. Destroys the sword most likely, which I'd very much like to see go down. Unfortunately Lily not quite as good now if Ixhel can stay in play, but I think it's still worth doing. Now going in at the mono blue player with the Ixhel, using the Death Toucher as a blocker seemingly. So now Ixhel, still only seeing 3 poison counters on us, will exile the top card of our library. Not managing to get into additional lands from us though, still stuck on 3 there. Alright, a Goblin Bombardment is nice. Play at the Dragon Skull Summit, and I think it is just Liliana along with Tana here. So we'll see if we can get through the 2 pieces of single blue mana. Yep, there it is, an offer you can't refuse. So making a 2/2 flyer. And I think we'll still get down the Tana here because it keeps the Jeska's Will relevant. But getting that out of the way for when we want to recast our Black Commander will do. So we get a couple of tokens into play. Each opponent loses 2 life to the Mirkwood Bats, and when we sacrifice these, the same will happen. So casting the Tana, we get to keep our Thrall tokens at least. Yeah, I think we can go for Goblin Bombardment here, just in case someone mites the board. Make people think twice about swinging into us as well, especially the Talrand player. So we get rid of those tokens, and the Mirkwood Bats is going to continue to ping away at our opponents. We will leave it there, I think. Just hoping for something really good from Jeska's Will, because Liliana would have been a very nice means of card draw for us. Inquisitor Flail is going to counter it with Shram. It deals double damage. And then upgrading the fighter class, the flail can be equipped for free because its equip cost is 2. Whenever a creature you control attacks, up to 1 target creature blocks this combat available. So I was hoping that we'd have this thing dealt with by now, but obviously Talrand didn't want to lose his commander. And swings in at us, so has to have us block with something. And it is the Mirkwood Bats. So do we want to sacrifice the Mirkwood Bats? We've got Trample here, that'll be 4 damage. That is dealt to us if we don't block some damage with Mirkwood Bats. So, yeah, I mean, if he's just going to keep coming in at us, then he's kind of forcing our hand here. We could clear the way for Tana to get through the Shram and leave Talrand alone, which I really don't want to do, but Terax is looking in our direction quite a lot, so, like I say, kind of forcing our hand. Let's go for Goblin Bombardment pointed at Shram, sacrifice a Thrall. Pings each of our opponent for 1 because we lost a token. And then let's keep a Thrall in play just in case we get into a Skull Clamp or something. We'll sacrifice the Mirkwood Bats that we're about to lose anyway. Although if we just block with Mirkwood Bats, we're going to kill this thing, aren't we? Because it's going to deal double damage. That'll be 2 to this. And then this will deal 4. Yeah, so actually let's just lose the Thrall token after all. Get rid of the Shram. Losing quite a bit of our board here, but it's for the sake of making a bit more of a board with Tana next turn, hopefully. So managing to take down Terex's board, and he manages to take down ours. And in the meanwhile, we've got Talrand and Poison doing its thing over here. Alright, so Talrand passing straight through the turn, meaning that he's just holding up instant speed stuff in typical Talrand fashion. So now we've got an issue here. Vraska's Fall. Each player sacrifices a creature or planeswalker. Maybe should have kept the token after all then. That's hindsight for you. Actually, should have gone for Goblin Bombardment in response to that. Our opponent's going to allow us to do something here. Okay, Muddle the Mixture. So not going to have to sacrifice it. Just have to try and get Talrand to use all his counter magic at this point, and hopefully he doesn't refill his hand. So now we've got some Infect going in towards Terax now that he doesn't have any blockers. And that will be 3 poison over here as well. Might wonder why Talran bothered to counter this, because he's going to have a token to sack to it, but it would have been an extra poison counter and would have put him at 3, so obviously doesn't want his stuff exiled off the top. Maybe has Mystical Tutor in hand or something. Doesn't want it to be interfered with, although you can obviously see when the top card's going to be exiled, so probably not. Alright, a Perforos showing up a little bit too late, but we haven't exactly got into a lot of the token production anyway. Let's attempt a Jeska's Will. Point that at Terax, because he's not as likely to lose cards in his hand like the Talrand will. So we'll gain 5 mana and exile the top 3 cards here, hopefully. But priority being held up by the mono blue player, as you would expect. Alright, so we've got an Ancient Tomb, and then Garrett Cursed Huntsman, and a Beast Within, so yeah, I think we definitely try Beast Within onto Talrand, and that might allow us to sneak through the Garrick. If he's expecting the Garrick, then he could hold up the counter magic to counter that instead. Okay, a Ghostly Flicker. Exile 2 artifacts, creatures, and or land you control. Return them under your control after that, so that will make them an illegal target, of course. And can't afford an Offer You Can't Refuse or Muddle the Mixture, but he will get one of those back into hand because he's flickering the Mnemonic Wall. Doesn't get a 3/3 beast here at least. Brings back the Ghostly Flicker as opposed to counter magic. Alright, so now we've got 6 plus 5 is 11 mana. So we can go Perforos in for the Garrick, I suppose. Really wish we'd landed that Liliana. Obviously Talrand wasn't going to let that happen though. So now we arguably should go for blowing up the Talrand with Garrick. But our opponents aren't going to leave our Garrick alone. I mean, we've got the Drakes here anyway, which is annoying, but we can sacrifice them and make combat more difficult. Because we've got the Goblin Bombardment now, so we'll just make the Wolf tokens. Not managed to buff up Tana yet, unfortunately. Obviously they trigger Perforos as well for 4 damage here. Then it is through to combat, and we'll swing into the left because Terax is wide open. And that will allow us into a couple of Saprolings because only 2 damage is dealt. So it's 4 damage again, and the Saprolings are going to be sacrificed to get rid of Talrand, I imagine. I'll go through Chrome and Arden's turn first. And now that Terax is at 16, the Mana Crypt is getting closer and closer to a win here. That is 13 damage, or 13 life after the 3 damage from Mana Crypt. Chrome at Ludovic's Opus coming into play, and that is a 4/4 Hasty Flyer. And I wouldn't be surprised if that came in towards Garrick. So thanks to double damage being dealt on this now, how exactly is it worded? If another creature would deal combat damage, it's double damage. Alright, so that doesn't count with the Goblin Bombardment. Always good to double check. And yep, going in at Garrick. And a creature has to block it. We don't have any flyers anyway, so that doesn't really matter. Doesn't matter if we sacrifice the Wolf tokens here either, because we're not going to gain enough loyalty on Garrick. It'll only go up to a 7 loyalty commander, or a Planeswalker. So we might as well just take the damage here and deal with Talrand with the saps. Azorius Signet, 4 cards left in hand, followed by a Serra Ascendant, which is not going to be big enough to make a difference here most likely. Just a 1/1 lifelink at the moment. Drew into it too late apparently. Inquisitor's Flail being thrown on there for free because you might as well. Then we're through to the end steps, so Goblin Bombardment going to deal with the Talrand here. Point that at Talrand, sacrifice the Saproling. Quite a creature-based game this, which I actually prefer to the regular games of Commander nowadays. It does mean that we're having to use our creatures as sack fodder, as opposed to something like a Beastmaster Ascension. Playing a bit more of a control game here. So successfully dealing with the Commander, which does probably mean that they're going to hold up counter magic for Tevesh Szat, but they were going to do that anyway with Talrand in play. Lorien Revealed being land cycled again. Deciding not to swing in, holding up 5 mana. Blood Artist into play with all these tokens flying about. So that's probably going to have to eat a Goblin Bombardment as well. Alright, managed to get a land from exile here, so that one belongs to Terax. And here is a Norn's Decree. Whenever 1 or more creatures an opponent controls deals damage to you, that opponent gets a poison counter, and you can draw cards with this as well. Alright, and a counter spell on that from Norn's Decree. Speaking of drawing a card, Chrome has seen the second spell being cast, so draws a card. We're getting a lot of, is it play 2 spells, someone plays 2 spells and you get an effect type cards in the new Thunder Mountain Railroad, whatever the hell the next set's called. Now taking more damage from X-Hell in the air. And the commander will trigger again, exiling more cards. And exiling more cards from the top. Just really missing out on mana over here during this game. Anyway, we'll see how much counter magic we can't get through this turn. Drew into Urborg. I'll play that straight away. It switches off the Ancient Tomb if we need it to. Let's just try the Tevesh Szat straight away, because I wouldn't mind getting down the Beastmaster Ascension so that we can start trying to buff things up. And we will have to actually take life to the Ancient Tomb here so that we can hold up 6 mana for afterwards. Okay, being allowed in amazingly, so let's go for the Champion of Lamholt as well. Maybe Talrand's run out of counter magic now. Crom drawing another card. Perforos will deal 2 damage to everyone. Now, do we want to go for the tokens now, or do we want to... I mean, we're going to lose Tevesh Szat, aren't we? So, maybe not if we deal with some Drake tokens. I'm just wondering if to draw 3 cards with the commander. Yeah, maybe should have held off on the Champion of Lamholt, actually. We could have drawn cards and then see what we would have got into. Might have gotten into something better. Okay, the client just crashed there. I was actually going to make some tokens. That's really annoying. Yeah, hopefully I can show you that. Yeah, we've put the ability on the stack now because it's a May ability. That's annoying. Alright, well, we'll sack Tana then. What I was going to do there was sacrifice a wolf to the Goblin Bombardment to get rid of this, and then we could swing through with Tana and make more tokens and deal a bunch of damage with Perforos here. And we draw into 4 drops, so should have held off on the champion. That's irritating. Oh, we've cleared some cards off the top at least. Did we play a land this turn? I think we did. Blood Artist triggering. And he's pointed at us, as you would expect. Yes, and we have played a land this turn, so it's just Beastmaster Ascension then. Bit of a goofy turn that, but I did think it through and managed to cobble a bit of a better turn together after the Champion of Lamholt. But unfortunately, accidentally misclicked somehow once the client was frozen. Like I keep saying, just not managing to hold on to the tokens to make something like a Beastmaster Ascension relevant. I suppose we might as well get at least 1 counter onto the Beastmaster Ascension. We want to hold back a 2-2 for these things here and encourage the Drakes to come in towards us, or in towards the Tevesh Szat at least. So always yes, always yield on the Ascension, and we'll see if he wants to trade the Serra Ascendant. He does. So what we could do here is keep him from gaining life. Okay, it's gone straight through to... I've no idea what's going on with the client here. I didn't automatically yield. What I could have done there was sacrificed with the Goblin Bombardment and dealt a damage here so he didn't gain the 2 life, which could be relevant. Or I could even have sacrificed it to get rid of Blood Artist. Yeah, it's irritating me, this. So Blood Artist gets pointed at us again. Not in any particular rush to get rid of Terrax, seemingly, when he's teetering. Anyway, Yawgmoth and Pitiless Plunderer could be something. Can we do something with that? I mean, obviously we can draw cards with Yawgmoth. We can make more treasures with Pitiless Plunderer. There are combos to be had with these two, but I don't think there's anything on board that we can do. Gonna start gaining life with the Inventor's Fair here now as well, that he's got Metalcraft. Dodges the Bolt from Mana Crypt, so has gained a half-decent amount of life here. I'm sure he's still lower than he would like, though. That is a Shinka. Legendary First Strike. And in comes Arden. Not too many equipment available at the moment, but Arden will be able to suit himself up. Then an Echo Storm. Create a copy of an artifact. Copy it for each time you've cast your commander from the command zone this game, so gets 3 copies of that, going after the Inquisitor's Flail. And that doubles the damage multiple times, I'm assuming. So he's just going to be able to one-shot us with Chrome. I'm assuming that that's what's going to happen here. Can equip for free, doesn't even need the Arden. But obviously cast it for the sake of the Echo Storm, getting multiple copies off there. So all of the Inquisitor's Flails being equipped here, and does come straight in towards us, so I'm guessing this is going to be commander damage. So it'll be 4 doubled to 8, and then doubled to 16, and then doubled to 32, and then doubled to 64. Is that the way it's going to work? Yeah, that's right, 64 points of commander damage, so if you get multiple copies of this, it doubles and doubles and doubles for as long as you have multiple versions of it equipped. So that's an interesting interaction. Don't feel too bad about losing that one. I think we were targeted a lot there and didn't really get into too much card advantage. I think even with the goofy client clicks and misclicks and stuff like that, the odd mistake that I made, I still don't think we could have done much of anything. Anyway, Rahav is in play and has been equipped with a flail, as has Arden. No flyers to block with though, so only going in with 2 drakes over here. Most likely so he can use this to block the Chrome, so doesn't feel too confident about keeping Talrand in play. A Consuming Tide, each player chooses a non-land permanent they control. All non-land permanents not chosen this way go back to the hand. You draw for each opponent who has more cards in their hand than you. So pretty much resetting the board, keeping the fighter class in play over here, the commander over here. The game is going to go on for quite a bit longer apparently. A Sol Ring, managing to make his 5th land by turn 8. Noxious Assault. Creatures you control get +2/+2 till the end of the turn, and they get a poison counter when they block. So this is still only going to deal 2 poison, even though it's been buffed. So I'm not entirely sure what the point of that was. It doesn't work like Infect. It doesn't really matter if you buff a toxic creature. We'll get the mono blue player up above 3 poison counters finally though, which obviously equates to more card advantage. Sol Ring over here as well, the fast mana started to come out late game. Then a Thieving Skydiver where X is 1 will take the other Sol Ring. Still don't see enough of this thing, it's a very good creature. Talrand has not had the best of luck keeping his rocks in play. This is the problem with colours that can't ramp without artifacts. It has been quite an interactive game as well. Rahav into play, followed by Chrome, 5 cards in hand and 10 life. At least he gets the chance to not recast the Mana Crypt here. Casts it anyway, and there is the flail once more. So only 1 copy of that now. It does have haste and is going to gain double strike if Rahav has anything to say about it, and will force the commander to block if he wants to. Does not have trample, but still a 4/4 with double strike that is going to deal and be dealt double damage. Otherwise it's 16 points of commander damage, knocking him down to 3. Yeah, so instructing the commander to block there, I think I would have not told... Is it a May ability? Yeah, it's up to 1 target creature has to block, so he doesn't have to. I would have tried to go for the 16 points of commander damage personally. Anyway, the Mnemonic Wall coming into play is going to take the counter spell. So Talrand just kind of floundering at the moment, just trying to control the board long enough to do something in the late game in typical mono blue fashion. Viridian Corruptor into play again, probably goes after the flail. And Jeska, Thrice Reborn, is a scary one. Not going to do too much of anything on its own though. So just comes in with 1 loyalty thanks to only casting the commander once, and points that at the Drake token. So just politicking with this. This obviously belongs to Terax, the only red player in the game here, so cast it from exile. Does have 1 face down exile card in the partner player's exile zone here. So this now not going to be as easy to swing into, because it's going to deal 6 damage in the air. Although Chrome with double strike will still get rid of it. Dodging the Mana Crypt again and going up to 11 life. Inventor's Fair being sacrificed for a tutor. An Ogre's Cleaver now, not one you see very often, +5 to power. And it is going to be less to equip, not free quite, unless they get out Arden again. Sword of Fire and Ice. And Arden costs 5, I think. That is going to tempt the blue player for the counterspell because he doesn't want pro blue. And obviously that will be card advantage, especially with double strike as well. And it can take out Talrand and Drake tokens, so definitely want to counter. Okay, not going for Arden, instead a Treachery. So this is going to deal 6 damage to this player, which probably means he can be taken out here, I think. Yeah, it'll be 8 damage here, then 10. They can't equip up the Chrome is the thing. Oh wow, really? And you scoop to that? Yeah, that's a bit of a bitch move. So Treachery, just getting a player to scoop, does not untap the lands because it doesn't resolve, which is, yeah, I mean I think Terax has pretty much got it in the bag against this player anyway, but that's a real dick move doing that. So going to swing in with Chrome and the 2/1 flyer, so won't be able to block even if he wants to. Both going in, yeah, the little one taking out the Jeska, and Chrome hits our opponent. Okay, so the Thieving Skydiver being taken out during this player's turn with a Contagion Clasp, but Just been too slow on mana, unfortunately. A land was taken away by the mono blue player there, so screwing this player over as well. Getting out the Bilious Skull Welder, and that drew the Chrome player a card as well. So just a matter of time here, really. Felwar Stone after the bounce. And I'd just be trying to push infect damage through personally myself, but I think that Chrome has it next turn anyway. Buff up the Chrome with this will make it a 9 power creature with double strike. And obviously he's already got 8 points of commander here. Not managing to dodge the crypt this time, that is 8 life he's got now. Okay, playing Bruenor. I think all he has to do here really is equip up the Chrome. So does that, and that is now an 11-4. And now going through to combat. Double strike from the Rayav. Okay, we've been kicked out into the lobby straight away, but obviously Terrax won that one, so good game to friend of the channel Terrax, and hopefully you all enjoyed it. This is a deck that I just kind of threw together. I've wanted to play with Tana, the Bloodsower, for ages. I'm not sure if Tevesh Szat is the best partner for it. Maybe I'll build another deck with Tana just so I can make like a big Voltron commander that makes a load of Saprolings, but this was more of a Jund token controlled aristocrat type thing. I don't know. It's the first time I've ever played it, and maybe it's pulling in too many different directions. I'd have to play it again to be sure, I suppose. Anyway, hopefully you all enjoyed it. I'm tribalkai. Thank you for watching.